Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of A Real Point of View. My name is Greg Morgan. I'm an internet film critic. Sitting next to me is Glenn Morgan, and he's kind of a critic at large. And also on the panel tonight are the movie maven herself, Miss Karen D, and the critic who doesn't pick a bad movie, Mr. Stephen C. Welcome to the show, you guys. And today we're talking Oscars. So let's go to the Oscars, right, Steve?
Yay, Oscars, yay.
Yay.
Let's hope they don't screw up like they did last year.
Yay. Yeah, tell me about it.
The right envelope, please.
Yes.
It was the right envelope.
Just the wrong people presenting it, probably. It's more.
No, it's the wrong. They got the wrong envelope.
No, it was the right envelope.
It was the right envelope,
it was
just the wrong.
It said Moonlight.
Oh.
Yeah,
they just read it wrong. They opened it up and saw the, and it was just like, oh, of course. No.
I thought they.
Yeah, that's how stupid. That's how stupid the whole situation was.
Because when they finally lifted it up, when they finally opened it up, and the other guy got up on the stage and took it from Warren Beatty, it said Moonlight.
Oh my God! I didn't even know that. I thought they had gotten, because the news stories were that they'd gotten the wrong envelope.
Yep.
Oh God.
Wrong presenters.
No, they were just really old.
I guess that's why there's all this sort of like brouhaha as to whether they would be back to do any presentations this year.
You know, after Bonnie and Clyde, that was it for them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Wow. How could they read that wrong? That's
I think Steve had it kind of
visually challenged.
There you go.
Well, no, it was like or there was something else that was written with it that when they opened the envelope, because of course it took him 8 years to open that envelope. And he opened it up and saw that and was like, oh, of course it's blah, blah, blah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Instead of opening the envelope and reading the whole thing, of course she's trying to rush him along. It's like, open the envelope so we can get off stage. I have a martini.
And what was the film that they announced? It was that LA movie film.
La La Land.
La La Land.
La La Land. Right. Well, there you go.
Yeah. Everybody from La La Land comes up on stage, and it's like, whoa.
Right, because the guy who actually read that it was Moonlight was the guy from La La Land, one of the producers.
Yeah, yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah,
that
was like,
crazy.
Whoa.
Wow.
He's like, wow, this is
And then you could see on The Rock's face, he's about to have to come up and hurt someone.
Oh my God! And I turned off the Academy Awards by then because I was just so disgusted that La La Land had apparently won Best Picture, and I'm like, oh my God! I can't deal. I'm out. Peace out.
That's
Hey, there was a rant about La La Land.
Yeah, there was.
There was
not my favorite movie.
Alrighty.
And
well, speaking of movies,
won awards, and she was so unhappy. You see, I don't even think there's a movie this year that warrants that much, like, unless, that much disdain, unless, I don't know, Phantom Thread wins. And even then, it's not going to be the same.
I don't know. Phantom Thread probably has a ghost of a chance of winning.
Ha ha!
It's just okay. That was really good. That was really
bad. Good. Ghost of a
I'm kind of in between on the Phantom Ghost thing.
Well, really? I'm sure there's some spiritual connection to everything, but let's keep going.
Let's actually get to the subject of today's.
Yes, let's move along
before we lose the two people who are actually still listening.
Well, this is an interesting year of movies. The nominees, not necessarily what I would consider the greatest films out there, but that's just me. I was able to see some of these movies, and we'll get to the movies. We'll talk about some of the other categories, like actor in a leading role and actress in a leading role, actor in a supporting role, and so on and so forth. So we'll try to get to those things and kind of expound on them a little bit. So first of all, best film. The nominations here are Call Me by My Name. I'm sorry, Call Me by Your Name, Darkest Hour, Dunkirk, Get Out, Lady Bird, Phantom Thread, The Post, and The Shape of Water, and lastly, Three Billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri. So much for reading for me today. I've had a tough day, obviously, right? I'm trying to get past that right now, so I apologize, everybody out there. Yeah, sorry. Three Billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri. So the different films that have actually been nominated. What do you feel about those movies in general? I think there's pretty much maybe 3 to 4 of them that really perked my interest when I first heard they were coming out, and the others not so much. What do you guys think of the films, and which one do you think really deserves the Oscar?
Well, initially just looking at them, and I have not seen the majority of these movies, but looking at them, it seems as though the Academy is trying to be as diverse as possible on purpose. Like we don't want to offend anybody else because we've been getting slammed the last several years, which to me kind of dilutes the quality of what the best picture should actually be. So I think that kind of is what you alluded to earlier when you said it doesn't seem like anything's really grabbing you this year. And that's because I think there's things are a little diluted. That being said, you almost every year you seem like you're going to find some kind of bio movie, and Darkest Hour is that movie for this particular year. And those tend to have a bit more of a head start in terms of people liking them and them being accepted because it's based off of something or someone or some event that we've seen or heard before. So there's a connection or a relatability that people have initially right off the jump. So a movie like that gets a bit of a nod. And when you put an actor with some acclaim like a Gary Oldman in there, or someone that may not have won 6, 7, 8 awards, or they may be due for an award, that tends to get the sentimental favorite vote or sentimentality goes towards those particular actors in that movie or that movie because of those actors. So with that being said, I think Darkest Hour has a bit of a lean, but then a movie like Dunkirk comes in, and that's the movie that looks really good, the Saving Private Ryan moment type kind of movie that's out there. And so I think Dunkirk gets it just because it looks good, although it may be a long movie and may make some people go, oh, did they start fighting? Are they done? Are they no? Wake me when their fighting's begun. Phantom Thread, I think that's a bit of a nostalgic type kind of movie for a niche kind of grouping of people that want to remember how things used to be or wish things were a certain kind of way when a man spoke to a woman this way and when a woman reacted to a man that way. I'm sorry, can you bring up the other movies again? Get Out. Clearly, that's for the younger crowd, more ethnically diverse crowd, those that can kind of be like, oh, yeah, I saw that movie. I can get with that movie because I didn't see the other ones. So they kind of like that movie and they're rooting for that one to win. And then the other ones, again, just I think it goes towards different demographics. And so I think, like I said, to start off, I think you're seeing a really purposefully situated grouping of movies, to kind of, make everybody happy while probably making most people, apathetic. So I don't know. That's just my take on it. Again, not having seen the movies because I fell into the crew that saw Get Out so, of those several movies. So that's kind of my spin on it.
Well, I respectfully disagree with Glenn's assessment, I have to say. That's
fine. And, share with us.
Oh, I guess that's my cue to keep going. Okay, great.
You started you me with.
Well, I think this is a rather strong grouping of movies, and rather than saying that I mean, if there was some attempt to be diverse, I don't think that weakened the population. I've seen much worse groupings of movies in other years for the Academy when there was no diversity at all. I think these movies sort of they do sort of approach different audiences, or they may appeal to somewhat different audiences, but I still think that the overall quality of these movies is good. I think The Shape of Water has gotten a lot of acclaim as a very creative movie. Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri has gotten a lot of acclaim for just, I mean, it's gotten a lot of acclaim. It's also getting some blowback, somewhat, but there's really compelling acting. It's a compelling story. The Post is probably like, I mean, if you're going to say that something's boring, maybe that might be The Post. Now, to me, not so, because the you know the attempts of the Washington Post to publicize the Pentagon Papers, to me, were pretty compelling, and it took a lot of courage for the newspaper to do that. So that's interesting. And Dunkirk and The Darkest Hour all have great production values. I don't know very much about Call Me by Your Name, so I won't speak to that. But Get Out and Lady Bird are the kinds of films that might appeal to a younger population, but they also have a really interesting, intriguing way of telling a story. And so I like these different approaches. I like the fact that you have World War II films and 50s films and films done and in current times. I really like that. And movies about entirely different things. So I think, now who I think will win, I personally think The Shape of Water will probably win. Guillermo del Toro's The Shape of Water will win. Mainly because that movie just seems to have a lot of momentum heading into the Oscars this weekend, I think. With the possible maybe Lady Bird might take a little bit from The Shape of Water, but I don't think enough. My personal opinion is that I would love to see Get Out win, because I really thought that was the most creative movie that I've seen this of all of the Oscar nominees. I don't think it will win. I wish it would win. So that would be my entry for the I wish it would win. What I think will win is The Shape of Water. And maybe out of all of them, that should win. I don't think Darkest Hour will win, because in fact, I think Gary Oldman's performance, compelling, might be that movie's undoing in terms of winning Best Oscar, because his performance was so compelling that all people saw was Gary Oldman, and the rest of the movie was almost just like a vehicle, or you could argue was almost a vehicle for Gary Oldman to be Winston Churchill, and the rest of the story just didn't matter. Yeah. So I don't think people are going to think about Darkest Hour as a fine film, although it was a fine film. So that's my take.
What about you, Steve? What's your conceptual ideas about what's been said already, and or what you think is really going to happen here as far as who's going to actually win this thing?
Well, I do have to say that there is a diversity in the movies that are chosen. We've got two coming-of-age stories, one being Lady Bird, the other one being Call Me by Your Name. We've got three period pieces, but two of them are real setting style period pieces, while Darkest Hour being a biopic. But Dunkirk and The Post, I feel like The Post gets a lot of credit because it is Meryl Streep, it is Tom Hanks, and you throw them on screen and you just go, hey, good acting, there we go, that's all we need. And even though they are telling a necessary and a very compelling story that needs to be told, over and over again, so people, never forget the things like this that were going on. I don't see it being a true winner in this category. Dunkirk, I thought, did a really amazing job for what it was, but it wasn't as big of a movie as like a Saving Private Ryan movie was. I don't think it had as much an impact as that movie would, or that movie did. I kind of agree with her on Darkest Hour, but I'm a huge fan of Gary Oldman and all of his acting that he does, and but it does feel like the movie itself was just a vehicle for him to be Winston Churchill, even though I feel like he did a phenomenal job as Winston Churchill. The Phantom Thread, I feel like they're giving Daniel Day-Lewis his last nomination since he's retiring from movies. I mean, he has subjected himself to so many transformations and truly diving into the characters that I'm sure it's taken such a mental and psychological toll on him. And I feel like, to me, the movie's kind of boring. I'm going to be honest. It keeps me kind of enthralled because it is a little different, but in which he's truly, like, he has a love interest, but the love interest is more of
His
her
muse.
in the fabric.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's not her, so that
Right.
makes it an interesting dimension to the movie. Shape of Water and Get Out are the two very most interesting movies, and with Get Out being a fresh take on a thriller style of movie, and Shape of Water being a different stylized love story, but also still being a throwback to old stylized what if love stories and things like that. And Guillermo del Toro really knows how to push buttons when it comes to things like this. Three Billboards, I thought all the awards that it got at the Golden Globes were definite necessities, and they earned every bit of them. I would have liked, it's going to be weird saying this, but I would have liked The Disaster Artist to be on this. The movie about Tommy Wiseau and The Room, or The Apartment, The Room.
No, The Room.
The Room, and I thoroughly enjoyed the movie. I thoroughly enjoyed James Franco's acting as Tommy Wiseau. I feel like him not at least getting just a spotlight in the leading actors in a leading role is a kind of a bit criminal. But I do also understand they do not want Tommy Wiseau anywhere near a microphone.
He almost got the microphone at the Golden Globes, and boy, that was disaster happening.
James Franco played the best tackle that you could possibly play on that stage right there.
Right.
My dark horse for this category is Get Out. I feel like it, at least, if that one won, I feel like there would be a lot more excitement for it winning. It would be a lot interesting. It would help boost Peele, I believe, was the director of Key and Peele. Yeah. And I feel like that would help boost him a little bit, because if he's going to do movies like this, or even movies that are as diverse as this, it's things that we need to see, and it's things that we need to have spotlighted. And his name with Oscar next to it will really get people interested. But I wouldn't be surprised if Three Billboards wins, just like it did at the Golden Globes, winning the best drama. It's just amazing acting all the way around, even though, like you said, Greg, endings for movies this year are not a thing.
Yeah, and I guess typically my rants are, I want to see a full movie, and or the ending not be so quirky. Now, I actually did enjoy watching The Shape of Water, but the latter part of the film, and that's really deep into the latter part of the film, really, there was a dream sequence that I just wasn't agreeable to me. But the movie as a whole, truly, I did enjoy it. And it had nothing to do with someone from my old college being in it. But still, No, it was very, very, very interesting movie. There's no true bias there.
Go Richard Jenkins.
Go Richard Jenkins. Okay. Anyway, for Karen and I, but it was a full film and a complete film. I just didn't really truly agree with the ending so much. And the same thing here with Three Billboards from Ebbing, Missouri. I mean, this is a really good movie, and I actually like the performances in the movie. Woody Harrelson did a great job, I think. I think Sam Rockwell the same, and Frances McDormand, stellar. I truly understood her angst. I truly understood her sorrow in the film, but the ending again just kind of, it's like they gave up or something. I don't know, but when it comes down to who I think was the front runner, I think it's the Three Billboards as well, with The Shape of Water chasing a real hard behind. For whatever reason, I did like Get Out, but maybe not as much as you guys did. Get
out.
But with that being said, I did like the movie. But I felt, in my opinion, going back to where it's a new take on an old theme, that's what I guess gets me. It was too predictable for me. So Shape of Water, didn't know how that was going to go. Three Billboards, I had some of it was predictable to me, but then there was some really crazy things that happened that kind of threw me off that situation. So with that being said, I'm going with Three Billboards also. So why don't we jump into another category here? Why don't we go into actor in the leading role? Anybody want to comment on that, just in general, the different nominees here?
I'll be real quick because, again, I don't have as much the background. But this one, since everyone shot down Darkest Hour for Best Picture, but listening to how you guys describe it, that movie kind of being a vehicle for Gary Oldman, I think he may be maybe the odds favorite to possibly win this, since he did such a spectacular job, according to what everyone said here, and he pretty much seemed to capture everyone's imagination of how Winston Churchill was, especially during the darkest hour. So yeah, I would just say I think Gary Oldman kind of gets that. And I'm not certain if he has. Does he have an award to his credit as far as Best Actor?
I don't think
believe
so.
He does.
I don't think so.
Yeah, and that's why I think that's gonna kind of catapult him ahead. Denzel has a couple. Daniel Day-Lewis has some. I've never heard of Timothy Chalamet or Chalamet. And Daniel, he's going to be the he's too young type kind of thing just yet, and let's see what else he does kind of deal. He and Timothy may fall into that. You're young enough that you've got time to acquire one of these things. So I will go with Gary Oldman being odds-on favorite, and who I also would like to see win one because he's one of my favorite actors too.
And like Daniel Kaluuya, is it Kaluuya? Now, I liked him in this movie. I'm hoping he gets a lot more roles. I've seen him in a few other movies. In fact, he's actually in Black Panther. That's right. But the performance there was good, but I don't think that would be considered a Academy Award winning, but I still think it's going to catapult his career quite a bit.
Sure.
I think Denzel Washington's in this situation kind of like Meryl Streep in a way. He's here because I actually saw a little bit of. I haven't seen the whole movies, but I've seen a lot of Roman J. Israel Esquire, and it is definitely a quirky movie, and it does hit you from a position of, you really don't know what this guy is really about, and you can tell early on he's really a smart guy. It's just that he's out of his element. And he has to find a way to get back into the mainstream of what's going on around him. So I think Denzel Washington is here kind of like Meryl Streep. In Meryl Streep, you've got a really good actor in a movie, and this is one of those stellar actors. But I don't think this movie was a true vehicle for him, like The Darkest Hour is a true vehicle for Gary Oldman. And again, I agree with Daniel Day-Lewis. This, Steve, you mentioned this is his last hurrah, and of course, you want to go out on top. And there are people backing this movie enough and pushing this movie out there into the forefront. Now, this is a late bloomer too. This didn't come out very early in the season. This was toward the latter part of the season, the movie season, and a lot of people didn't really know very much about this movie, and I think that hurt this film. And it is a kind of a bizarre quirkiness in this film, being in love with your muse and falling in love with the idea of what this person is in the fabric that you are providing for them in itself is a little quirky. So yeah, I'm thinking, in just my opinion, I think Glenn's right. I think Gary Oldman is probably, yep, today. I think Gary Oldman is probably the front runner here. What about you guys?
I feel like Gary Oldman's kind of in the position Leonardo DiCaprio was 2 years ago, where it's you literally have a category where even though you had good movies, when DiCaprio won, he was against Bryan Cranston in Trumbo, playing Dalton Trumbo, Matt Damon in The Martian, Fassbender and Steve Jobs. Not going to talk about that movie. And then somebody I've never even heard of. So, but I feel like when you look at the category, you can kind of pinpoint who you would feel would be the best in this category. Mm-hmm. And just like then, I feel like Gary Oldman, with the movie that he's doing, with the impact that it has on history, with the character that he's playing, and how amazing of a job, in my opinion, that he does playing this character, that he's kind of gonna finally get his. Mm-hmm. The Oscars are finally going to reward him for all his hard work and all the acting that he's done, and it's the proper movie for him to be able to get that, because of course the Academy loves those history style movies and things like that. Right. So I completely agree that Gary Oldman's going to be the guy.
Well, I guess it's unanimous, because I agree with you guys. I think this Oscar's Gary Oldman's to lose, and I think there is a juggernaut basically driving towards the Oscar for Gary Oldman here that I don't think any of these other men are going to be able to come close to. And I thought his performance was absolutely riveting in Darkest Hour. It was just amazing. The physical transformation, but not just the physical transformation, it really seemed like he was channeling Churchill. Mm-hmm. And, and then the story itself, which has gotten short shrift, but the story itself is just incredibly compelling. It really was about the end of the world as people knew it at that time. Right. And a person like Winston Churchill, who was not at all popular and had so many people working against him behind the scenes because they just personally didn't like him. And the fact that he was smart and that he warned everybody just made it worse. And so the knives were really out. So in spite of all of these things going on, the fact that he was able to lead his country at this really critical juncture is really, really, really compelling, I think. But Gary Oldman just seemed to become Churchill, and the man looks nothing like Churchill in real life. So it's like, how did he do that? And he certainly didn't sound like Churchill. So yeah, it's his to lose. Now I think he's the front runner. I think if he wins it, he will have deserved that Oscar. Who I wish would win is probably, I'm sorry, I love Get Out, so I would love to see Daniel Kaluuya win for that. I guess I disagree with your take on it, Greg. I thought his performance was very nuanced. It was subtle, and it was just, it was sort of, I don't know. I just like so many things about the movie, but that particular character was one that kind of had to like sort of bob and weave between being the center of the story and taking a back seat. He had his best friend who, you know, kind of stole a lot of scenes. Then there was the girlfriend, and she had to have her moments, and he sort of had to balance all that out. And I thought he did that really admirably with this really weird script and this really weird take on life, you know, modern life. So I really liked what Daniel Kaluuya did, and I think he really is a fine actor because, frankly, when I was in Black Panther, I didn't really recognize him. He looked way different, and not just because the costume, just his face looked different. The way that he carried himself was way different to me.
Mustache, huh?
Hmm?
No, I said the facial hair probably helped a little bit too.
Oh, maybe. Oh, so he gained some weight. I mean, as one of my friends at work said, he likes it. He's getting a lot of good meals ever since Get Out. So maybe, or ever since Black Panther. So maybe that was some of it too. But it's like, you know, he looked like an entirely different person. He looked almost frail in Get Out. He didn't look anything like that in Black Panther. So.
You know, and I hope there's a misunderstanding. I like him as an actor, no doubt. And this is like the third film. Well, actually, this is the second film I've seen him in. I've seen him in 3 films. So, and each character that he plays is different, and that's great because that means that he's a really good actor. And of course, then he comes in under the lines of a show that we had a little while ago. He's a Brit.
Oh, crap. I mean, great. I mean, bad.
Yeah. Sorry, Karen. I had to put it out there.
And we don't have American actors anymore, so
But what was really cool was at least he was able to withstand Grandpa's charge. That I liked in the movie. Like, why is this guy running at me? Who knew he was Grandpa? I mean, who knew? But anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
But,
Well, let's.
we agree. I mean, I think we will, all 4 of us will be completely blown away if Gary Oldman does not walk away with the Oscar. And I guess I will say as a parting shot this. I mean, it's Daniel Day-Lewis is probably the finest actor of this, one of the finest actors of this generation, if not the finest. He's just amazing. I don't see him winning. Mainly because the film just didn't generate enough buzz. It was sort of like you said, Gregory, too much, too little, too late. If somebody said that, and I tend to agree with that. And yeah, he's retiring, but at the end of the day, it's like, so you're retiring. You're young enough. You'll probably change your mind and come back. You know, or you know, nothing's forever. I mean, how many times has the country singer, I can't even remember his name. Your favorite. Right.
My favorite. Slim Whitman.
Garth Brooks.
Whitman. Oh, Garth Brooks, yeah.
Yeah, Garth Brooks. Yeah, he's retired at least twice. So yeah.
I'm thinking 3 times, but yeah.
Okay. So so I think
I was thinking Michael Jordan actually, but okay.
You know what?
I don't see Daniel Day-Lewis winning.
Yeah.
As long as there is money to be made, stars will still keep coming.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It sure will. They'll just get bored. I mean, you know, they'll just get bored and they'll want to get back into the public eye.
No. He'll see the announcement of a movie and then he'll look at himself in the mirror one day and go, I could be that guy. And then he'll become that guy. And once again, we'll be staring at the film going,
now, I hope he does it when they offer him the part and not just walk down the street that way. But yeah, that could be really good. Okay, well, let's go on to actress in a leading role. Now, I know for sure I'm going to get a Karen rant out of this one if I say something out of kilter. But
which means Meryl Streep's going to win, right?
No, that's not the thing. This is a movie. Okay, so we've got Sally Hawkins in The Shape of Water, which I thought she did an excellent job. Again, Frances McDormand did a stellar job, in my opinion, in 3 Billboards. And then I'm not going to probably say her name correctly. Saoirse Ronan in Lady Bird. and then Meryl Streep recorded, of course, in The Post. But the movie that's I thought Karen was going to, really promote, because I know she likes this movie, is Margot Robbie in I, Tanya.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. If it's me, it's between Sally Hawkins and Frances McDormand. What did you guys take on who you think should actually win the Academy Award for a leading role?
I can tell you who shouldn't.
Okay.
Meryl Streep.
Meryl Streep.
And who's that? She's a new actress, isn't she? She's just new on the scene. You think because she's young and she has the ability to come back and win this again?
Yeah, that's it entirely. No.
You know what? Here's the thing: she can still come back and win again.
I'm tired of.
Let's not.
Nothing against her personally. I think she's overrated as an actress. I
think it's personal.
That quite some time, and I also just think I'm tired of the Academy just doing this knee-jerk, let's nominate Meryl Streep because she showed up on set and she wasn't late that day or whatever. It's like,
and she didn't get a ride or nothing.
And just because she has just sort of like these malleable features and the blonde hair, and she kind of blends into the scenery, doesn't make her a great actress. So stop nominating her.
Well, her buds and friends and all that influence over those years, she's pretty much going to be nominated.
Yeah, they need to stop it.
Well,
I agree with Greg on who's I think should win. It's either going to be Frances McDormand or I think Margot Robbie's got an outside chance. But it's like Slim and none, and Slim just left town. And if I got a small little gripe about Lady Bird.
Okay.
The movie is not interesting to me, and it's not. It's really.
Why
it's
not?
A boring movie to me. It's a very of course it's a coming of age movie, and maybe it's just there's so many coming of age movies that are coming out now that some people are just enthralled by the rebellious teen that slowly, is slowly becoming an adult but has to go through all these trials and tribulations, or coming to understand themselves and who they are in the world and all this other stuff.
Which is funny because every few years, if not every year, at least every few years, we get it inundated with, like you said, Steve, with all these different coming of age films. And I guess if the powers that be in Hollywood think that these coming of age films are the ones that really make sense to keep the younger people involved, but I don't think that's the case. Truly, I think there's enough content out there and enough storyability, I think that's a word, that we're going to get some good movies and not have to try to dummy down to a movie that is coming of age. You can have a good movie, a coming of age movie, without it being so clear.
Like, there was a coming of age movie that came out in 2007 that was, in my opinion, 10 times better than this movie, and that was Juno.
Love Juno. I thought it was fun. It was fun. It was quirky.
And it's just movies where you have somebody who's a rebel without a cause. You have to be very delicate with them in the fact of you can't take them too far. I feel like this movie takes them a little too far and then tries to just bring them back at the end. And there's a point where you don't get that bringing them back at the end. Like, once they go too far, they're out there. They're not coming back. And you get very hints of unrealistic nature with people. And that's kind of boring to me. Now, people like the unrealistic. People like, being spontaneous and out there and doing something different. But when you're doing a coming coming of age story, you have to have a point where you have to be getting to a point consistently.
Yeah.
And if you're not, you're just continually going out there, coming back and going out there and out there and coming back and then going out there and just staying out there and then coming back for no reason. And it's just this movie. It's terrible. I'm sorry. I'm not a fan.
What about you, Glenn? Any of these actresses you think deserving?
Yeah, and again, as I've alluded to before,
you want Meryl Streep to win, don't you?
No.
Just to piss you off. I am not gonna lie. I would wait. Oh, I would be giddy if Meryl Streep won come Sunday. Come Monday, Greg would see me giddy at work waiting for Friday to happen. Waiting for what's going to come, because we're gonna have a show. We're gonna have a show, and me and Greg are not gonna be on it. We're gonna be here, but we're not gonna be on the show. And it will be the best.
It's called Rant-A-L'Oreal.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't come to that.
Kind of just piggybacking on what you guys were saying in terms of like with the actor category, where it seems as though it's pointing directly towards one person to be the favorite. And clearly, I think it should be the favorite. Whether or not the favorite wins, because they don't always, remains to be seen, obviously. But I think Frances McDormand, and she's a longtime character actress. She every now and again has had a nice leading role, but it's always some kind of quirky niche, not too different from this type of movie, to where it's not really a big box office kind of draw. Meryl Streep is more box office-y than Frances McDormand.
Yeah.
So that gives her credibility in terms of the Oscars, and fans being able to recognize and again, oh yeah, I know her, she's good. And so even if she does win and you don't think she should, it's like, well, but it's Meryl Streep, and hence Karen hating it and all that stuff. But I think Frances McDormand, it points to her, and I haven't seen the movie, but I know what quality of an actress she has been, and it's probably one of those. It's her time, so I think she should. I think she's going to win. I like her to win, and I'm a fan for her if she does win.
Yeah, and just adding a little to that too, piggybacking on what Glenn's saying. I think it is her time, but not just because it's her time. I think she just did a really good job. Sure. And so therefore it makes sense to me that she should win the Oscar. And I really liked Sally Hawkins' portrayal in The Shape of Water. I mean, it is hard to not talk and yet be expressive enough to where we truly understand what's being said. I mean, I understand she could sign and all that. We got a little bit more dialogue that way. But I think it was more her emotion, more her that she gave through her actions, more so than anything else. And I think that in itself came across to me as bravo, kudos for being such a good actress in this film, and me understanding all the emotions and truly understanding her romantic relationship with this other than person.
Well, I mean, I guess I would tend to agree with you all. I think Frances McDormand is the likely winner of the Oscar for best actress, and probably deserving. I mean, she is a consummate actress. She's made really sort of plain people interesting. That's kind of her shtick, I think. And that's harder than I'm making it sound, I think. So there's that. I really liked Margot Robbie in I, Tonya. I liked the movie I, Tonya. Margot Robbie was in Suicide Squad, and
don't.
I'm sorry, that wasn't a positive for me, helping that out.
No, but what I'm trying to say is that the character there was entirely different than the character she played in I, Tonya.
Yeah. Sometimes, and since you brought up Margot Robbie, I think sometimes the Academy, they'll throw, and I think they do it more so with female actors as opposed to the male actors. It's kind of like, you know what? We know you've seen her as this type of character, the zany kind of out there, maybe sex symbol type kind of person. But now that she has a serious role, let's just see how you feel about her, so you can kind of get maybe a little used to her, and so that next time when she's nominated, she'll win. It seems like sometimes they do that just to kind of test the water, so to speak. And I'm wondering if they're doing that. Again, not having seen it. I heard that it was a very good movie. Several people that I work with mentioned how good they were shocked that it was actually.
I was shocked at how good it was.
Yeah,
I just had it on for noise. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Yeah, just like that. That's kind of what their shock was like, just like what you did. And but because most of us, are anyone who's basically 30 on up remember, that whole thing. So it's not like it's like, okay, I remember when this happened, so it's not really new to me. And wow, yeah, I guess I didn't look at it that way. And so it's again, I'm sure she's very deserving of it, but I think sometimes the Academy just kind of wants to see, like, let's see how you feel about this person who you always thought was this type of actress or actor, and let's see how you feel about that. But that's kudos to her for picking a role like that.
I'm not saying she should win. I'm not saying that at all. What I was going to say was that, she held her own against Allison Janney, but Allison Janney, again, is just getting she's sort of like the 900-pound elephant in the room sucking all the air out. So I don't think Margot Robbie's going to get the Academy Award. She's not. And I'm not necessarily saying she should. I'm just saying that even though I think she did a great job in I, Tonya, it was going up against Allison Janney makes that almost impossible. It's going to be almost impossible to recognize. So I don't think she's going to win. And the same thing with Cerise Saoirse Ronan. I don't know how to pronounce her first name.
I think Cerise, sounds right.
Ronan. In the first place, no one knows how to pronounce her first name, so that is the main reason she's not going to be able to win. And Sally Hawkins might very well be the most deserving person out of this entire group because of the work she did in The Shape of Water. But I think, the Academy is kind of like, Frances McDormand is older. There are probably fewer films ahead of her than are behind her, and especially in terms of Oscar-winning vehicles. She probably deserved the Oscar before and didn't get it. So I think she's going to be the one to get it.
Yeah, she's a stellar actress. I agree. Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Well, moving right along, let's get out of this category and get into actors in a supporting role. So we've got Willem Dafoe, we have Christopher Plummer, Sam Rockwell, Woody Harrelson, and Richard Jeni. Yeah, Richard Jeni. All right.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I just want to say one. I just want to say one thing. Okay, we're talking about actors in a supporting role.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I recently saw All the Money in the World, and it gave me a lot of interesting perspective about the movie. I had kind of written off, having not seen this movie, Christopher Plummer winning anything, being nominated Golden Globe, being nominated for supporting role. You want to talk about a person that can make you hate somebody.
Mm-hmm.
In this entire situation, and his entire just lack of moral compass when it comes to dealing with matters of the family. I mean, this is a level of narcissism and greed that is very rare to find in a movie, in a person in a movie that's not the main villain.
Wow. Wow.
And I really felt he did a really good. Now, I'm not saying he's going to win. He's actually not even my choice to win. Mm-hmm. But having seen the movie, I could understand if they gave him the award, it wouldn't bother me as much as it would Richard Jenkins in The Shape of Water,
No,
because I feel
Richard
like
Jenkins went to Illinois Wesleyan University.
I
Yes, he
feel like you
did.
could. I feel like you could write this movie without Richard Jenkins, and it would still be the exact same movie.
And although I am a fan of Richard Jenkins, and he did go to Illinois Wesleyan University. With that being said, which is one of the reasons why he's such a great actor.
He went to Illinois Wesleyan University.
I know he's a great actor. I get that, but you know, I agree with Steve.
What a surprise!
I mean, you could take him out of this movie.
I love him.
I love him. You could 15 minutes out of this movie. You could literally knock 15 minutes out of this movie and take Richard Jenkins completely off the movie, and you would have literally the exact same movie.
They tried very, very hard in The Shape of Water to make him viable because of the things that he had to do in the film. Mm-hmm. He was just a vehicle to let us know that this guy existed. He was a friend of the main character, and he needed to do some things to help the situation. But other than that, I didn't really see the overvalue, and I really don't understand why he was actually being nominated for the role, because I didn't think it was that much of content in his role, really. For me, it's Sam Rockwell. For me,
well, I would say either Woody Harrelson or Sam Rockwell, but you and I had the conversation about the Golden Globes where Richard Jenkins versus Michael Shannon. In the movie, Michael Shannon goes above and beyond.
Right, and didn't get any
more acting and got nothing out of it.
Got nothing. Yeah, and I think he was much more viable for the film, a much better catalyst for things being done and getting done in that film. And I mean, talking about another guy that you just hate, love to hate. Yeah. He was that guy too in this film, and he kept coming no matter what you did. No matter what happened.
Are you talking about Sam Rockwell?
No.
Woody Harrelson?
Talk about no. Michael Shannon.
Michael Shannon in The Shape of Water.
Oh.
He was the epitome of all the different wrongs that were going on in the world, of people that you don't know are doing it because you don't see it, and until it's too late. He had a very good guise before he was just evil and mean and ruthless and cutthroat. And it came out, and it stayed out, pretty to the bitter end, we'll say. Mm-hmm. Pretty bad. But for me, I like Woody Harrelson in the Three Billboards, but I don't think it warranted me to be that. It wasn't as huge. Sam Rockwell just knocked everybody out, in my opinion.
He sucked all the air out of the room.
He did, totally. And it was worth it.
About his Woody Harrelson's performance, they're talking about Sam Rockwell's, especially because he's playing a racist cop, and that's creating some controversy, and there's some speculation that could sort of dim the chances of him winning the role because the character that he plays is not terribly likable. I think that's a lot of speculation. It's not really grounded in anything.
I don't think so either.
Out of all these people, he's the most likely to win.
Mm-hmm.
The supporting actor Oscar.
I think so too.
I don't know that that's necessarily such a great thing, because winning the supporting actor or winning the supporting actress Oscar can be like the worst thing that can happen to your career. There are a number of people who won like supporting, and it's like they can't find a role. Just ask Cuba Gooding Jr. how it is to win a supporting actor Oscar, and how many great roles he's had since he won that Oscar.
Yeah, that's a good point. Not very many.
Yeah,
not very many.
And almost all of them. It's like the curse of the Oscar. You may not want that, but I think Sam Rockwell's just going to have to deal with it.
Yeah, I think you're right. but I think he did such a good job. I mean, he was very convincing as this horrible, horrific kind of uh, bigot, yet who somewhere, some deep down, he pulled out of him some humanity. That's what's so quirky about this film and his role in it. He found some humanity, and even he felt better. That's what was funny. So yeah, I really like him for this Oscar, supporting best supporting actor. Yeah, definitely. Now, getting to another phase here as we're getting closer to our time. Um, Actresses in a supporting role. Now, I'm gonna just throw it out there. I love Octavia Spencer, but I still don't think that she was just so marvelous in the role. Obviously, she was a friend of Sally Hawkins' character, but it just was, friend there, she's there, and like Steve said uh, uh, about Richard Jenkins, I think this Octavia Spencer is the same thing in the same movie actually. But for me, I saw Mudbound with Mary J. Blige, and she's being nominated for not just supporting actress, but also best song, best original song for the same movie, Mudbound. I really like her in this movie. I think she deserves it. I'm not even looking at anybody else except maybe Allison Janney might, because I and not even though I didn't see the whole movie, you don't have to see the whole movie to see what her impact was for the film. Um, but I'm still my money is for Mary J. Blige in Mudbound. How she was in being a sharecropper's wife, living this situation that was horrific in itself at a time in the country's history just after World War II, or during that time in the 40s, having to live as a sharecropper in the South, and also having your son come back from war only to have these horrific things happen in their lives, and how she was able to sustain herself in the essence of that um, as this parent um, uh, who was trying to do right things and wrong things were being done around her, being able to hold this family together. I thought that was really a good role. And Mary J. Blige is acting in other things, and I think she's just getting better and better. She's evolving into a more of a credible actress, and I think this is her time.
Well,
what do you guys think?
For me, the person that I think is the front runner is clearly Allison Janney.
Yeah.
The person that I think is most deserving, I might say, is Laurie Metcalf, and the person that I wish would win is Mary J. Blige. And I mean, for me, I think again, this is Allison Janney's Oscar to lose. I think she's, there's like a glide path with her name on it in terms of getting a supporting actress. And I don't know that she's necessarily the most deserving person because she did a great job. It's not that she didn't. She did do a great job. I'm personally not a huge fan of hers, but she did do a very good job in this role. But the character itself, in terms of a range, there wasn't a huge range, in my opinion, that character dealt with. I mean, there was just how many different ways can you be horrible? Let me count them. So, and she really excelled at that. So, one could argue that there was something of nuance missing there. Not necessarily Allison Janney's fault. That's the way the character was written. I think she admirably, you know, did what she was asked to do in terms of getting that character on screen. But but in terms of, I would like to see something like not quite so loud and more nuanced or multi-layered. And I think Roy Metcalf she's just an amazing actress. She's like been like the person toiling, trotting up and down, you know, the sets, the stage or whatever. She's just an amazing actress. And, you know who she is, but you may not know her name or, because she's never really had a starring vehicle. She's always been somebody's best friend or somebody's sister or somebody's, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
She really is a compelling actress, I think. So I wouldn't be at all upset if she won. I think she's very deserving. But still, my heart's with Mary J. Blige, just because the story Mudbound, it's a story that I think is worth telling. And Mary J. Blige was, she's not like your typical actress, but she owned that role. And so she'd be the one that I wish could win, but I don't think she is. I think the momentum is behind Allison Janney.
So I agree, Karen. And Glenn, so what do you think? What's your take on supporting actresses?
Like I said before, I pretty much ruled out Octavia Spencer. She's won recently. Unless it's just like a knockdown, one of those knockout type kind of roles where everyone is like, oh man, you should see her in this. And I haven't heard that kind of buzz for her this year like we did last year. I think Mary J. Blige, it's nice, but it almost, as I look at this picture, reminds me of Whoopi Goldberg in The Color Purple, where that was kind of her, a talent coming from a different backdrop or different discipline, where Whoopi was a comedian acting, Mary J. Blige, music artist acting. It's almost like I think the Academy is like, we'll nominate you, we'll give you a nod, but you're not ready yet. So I kind of ruled her out because of that. The other actresses I'm not as familiar with, but as I look at their pictures and kind of contemplate what their characters may have been like based on the movies and their subject matters, I think this is where the Academy, the older, more conservative part of the Academy, will win out. And it's like, this is not a reward, but this is an ode or an acknowledgement that you're still vital, you're still a part of what we consider acting to be. So with that being said, I'd lean towards this may be where the Phantom Thread gets something. They've got a stitch here in terms of being able to pull something out. They won't get the 12, Academy Award wins, or they won't have a cadre of awards. But I think this is the one where the Academy will say, this is who we select, and it's the older members will feel, the more conservative members will feel good. So I'm leaning towards the actress Leslie Manville to win.
Never happened. This movie will get best costume.
Maybe.
Well, yeah, it better.
Maybe.
That's the subject matter. It better.
But that's kind of
it's the evening dress that's going to win.
That's kind of my thinking on it. But Lady Bird, this may be where they, I think Tanya. I don't know if it's gonna. It might be that movie. I see it being the movie that gets several nominations, doesn't win any of them. I think Phantom Thread, just because of the cachet of the actors that are in it, it's almost like we need to give this something, and this is the one, like, not costumey, less prestigious. This is the more prestigious one, not a lesser prestige kind of award. So I think this would be because they're not going to get it for Best Picture. It's not going to get it, I don't think, for Best Actor. So I think they'll win it here for Phantom Thread.
And even though I only saw part of I, Tanya, and I did like Allison Janney's performance, I still think it was a little over the top, and I think that's why she may not get it. I think it's going to be between Metcalf and Mary J. Blige, but that's just me.
Yeah, I think I think Allison Janney has a lock on it, and like I said, it's not because I think she necessarily is the most deserving out of that group. I think the most deserving is Lori Metcalf.
How about you, Steve? Any take? Okay, that's good. All right, let's
No,
move
no, no,
on.
no, 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 no.
Let's go on to best director.
I was literally sitting there thinking, I was like, I can't follow this. No,
You can't swallow this. Is that what you said?
follow.
Oh, follow this. Oh.
Yeah, like you guys are making such good and interesting points, and I'm looking at all these people, and I'm remembering the movies, except for Mudbound. I have not seen Mudbound, and I enjoy Mary J. Blige whenever she steps up to the acting podium. I feel like she does a really good job.
Yeah.
I feel like having not seen that movie, then she would probably be my dark horse for the simple fact that I enjoy her acting so much in everything she does, whether it's musical or not. Allison Janney might be my pick, but kind of for the same reason Christopher Plummer for All the Money in the World would be my supporting actor.
Mhm.
She is a terrible person.
Yes.
She
Yeah.
is a terrible person.
That's on her best day.
And yes, and that's on her best day. Like her worst day is Satan. But she's a motivator.
Mhm.
She motivates in a horrible way. That's a very outdated way of motivating people to get better, to do better. She is living. She is the biggest living through her child and success of her child that I have seen in movies in a little while. And she plays the part perfectly. She understands exactly the type of character that you're not supposed to like this woman. And in some
Right.
semblance, you find a small amount of respect. Small, like can't even see through the gap, small amount of respect in the fact that she's the one that drove Tanya Harding to be as good as she was.
Olympic caliber.
And I mean, may never have gotten to that point.
Right.
So,
which was her point as a parent. She was kind of trying to
her to do, and Calf can't win because I don't like Lady Bird. Octavia Spencer, I felt like had a more predominant role than Richard Jenkins in The Shape of Water. I'm not going to say you could have the movie without her because you did need that side character, but
that's all it was really.
There was no supporting.
It was more sidekick than supporting actress, right?
Yeah, that was not a supporting actress role that was worthy of that nomination, and Leslie Manville, maybe in agreement that this is the one where they get the hand-me-down award, where it's just like it's his last movie.
She's in it with him.
Anything for him yet? She's in it with him,
and that's got to be tough when he's in character the whole time, even when they went to dinner after the movie.
Yeah, we're movie liberals, so we don't like making tough decisions. But I just don't see it. Allison Janney is my number one. I would say Mary J. Blige would be a close second.
Yeah, I want and maybe I should say
seen the movie.
Maybe I should say it like Karen. I think Allison Janney is going to be the winner, but I want it to be Mary J. Blige. And this is a really good film, and I was fortunate enough to be a part of an article on the film. And what's really interesting, which something I wish I had mentioned before, is the cinematographer for Mudbound is also the cinematographer for Black Panther.
Yep, and a woman, and first African American woman nominated for Best Cinematographer for an Oscar for Best Cinematography.
We'll just let that ride. Okay, so
what do you mean you'll just let that ride? What are you talking about?
I was talking to Glenn.
What are you letting ride? But what are you letting ride? Did I say something wrong?
When do you ever say anything wrong, Karen? Come on.
Well, hardly ever. That's why I'm a little surprised.
That's my point. Why would we be surprised if you never say anything wrong? Like Steve
Oh.
always picks a really good movie. You never say anything wrong.
Oh my god! I've got to tell you the modesty in that.
Rachel Morrison is a cinematographer on Mudbound. She is
Oh,
nominated.
it radiated through my headphones. It was so modest.
Whatever.
So, animated movies. Coco. Moving on.
Yes. Good.
Coco and
That was
the
good,
story.
Steve. That was perfect. I was thinking the same thing.
Coco's the only one that should win. Coco's the only one that should have been nominated. Well, maybe Loving Vincent, but Coco should win.
The Breadwinner was actually decent. I will give the Breadwinner credit. It was an interesting little movie. Very interesting art style for it, and they did a good job with making it work. But there's absolutely zero reason Coco should not be the winner.
Coco was one of the best movies I saw all year.
Me too. I agree. It was just amazing. Just an amazing movie. Absolutely recommended to, if you have the chance, see that movie. It's just stunning.
And if you don't know anything very much about the Mexican culture of the Festival of the Dead, you learn a lot through the essence of this film. Mm-hmm. And you come to understand it so much better. And you feel a lot, and in my case, I felt a lot better about it.
Yeah.
This is a stellar film. I think compared to even some of the not animated films that are being nominated, this should be right up there as Best Picture. Period.
Yeah, it really should. It really could have been nominated as Best Picture.
Now I see, and there's another nominated film here that Karen really enjoyed, which was Boss Baby.
Don't even get me started. That does not even belong. Those words should not even come out of your mouth.
I just remember the last rant. It was just too funny. Okay, so I just had to throw that out there. But like Steve said, Coco, hands down. Next.
Well, let's move on to Best Director, because I think we're probably on our way. We should maybe wrap up with this category. We're probably chomping at the bit, all of us. It's been a long day, so Best Directing. So the movies that are nominated are Dunkirk, Phantom Thread, Get Out, The Shape of Water, and Steve's favorite, Lady Bird.
So good.
But the people, Christopher Nolan is the director of Dunkirk, Jordan Peele is the director of Get Out, Greta Gerwig is the director of Lady Bird, Paul Thomas Anderson directed Phantom Thread, and Guillermo del Toro directed The Shape of Water. So what do we think?
In my opinion, I'm looking more at Guillermo del Toro and Jordan Peele. Those two movies. Again, I'm more a fan of Shape of Water, but I did not dislike Get Out. It's a good movie. And for me, even though this sounds a little strange maybe, I think Jordan Peele's participation in the film, he's the screenwriter of this movie. He's the brains of this film and the director of the film. I think he's like a triple threat of this whole film. And I think that in itself makes him a lot more viable when it comes to actually getting this award for directing.
Maybe.
I don't know. That's my opinion.
The person that it could help the most is Jordan Peele.
Yeah,
definitely.
The
person who,
I would. Well, okay.
Well, Guillermo del Toro. We know Guillermo. We know del Toro. We know what he brings. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Guillermo. We know what he brings. We know his style. We know his attachment to the fantastic, as I would like to say. But he's known. Christopher Nolan, he knocks one out of the park every time he steps up to plate. Like it's a home run. It doesn't matter. It is a home run. It might not be over the scoreboard, but it's a home run. It's leaving the field. I feel like Jordan Peele, this again, like I said with Best Picture, that this would be a huge attachment for him and developing and becoming a hugely known director from here on out, and that it would help him so very much. And it would just cement a good part to say that he got it this early instead of getting it late or anything like that. And it just, that name recognition. It's always best director Jordan Peele from now on. So that's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah, I know for me, I would love to see Jordan Peele get it. I love the fact. I'm very much looking forward to the Oscars, just because of Jordan Peele's accomplishments. He's nominated in three categories. He's a producer of Get Out, so Get Out's nominated for Best Picture, so he could win. He could win there. He's nominated as Best Original Screenplay, and he's nominated for Best Director. And that's never happened before to anyone.
I'd like him to win all of them.
I'd like him to win all of them too. I don't think that'll happen. I don't think, probably they won't win any of them. But I would love to see.
Maybe.
For me, in that category, I think the person that's going to win is probably Guillermo del Toro. He's probably the front runner. He might even be the most deserving because because The Shape of Water was just such a creative movie. But the person that I wish would win is hands down Jordan Peele. I would love to see him win.
Yeah, and I just think he deserves it, and I think. And that maybe I'm hoping is the saving grace of this whole thing, because he's done such a good job in totality, but also too directing the film. I think, putting all those elements together, I think he did an outstanding job. So I'm for him for that. I may not be for the movie for the Academy Award, but definitely Jordan Peele.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. The Academy Awards will be on this Sunday, so we should all tune in. It's must-see television for us in movie critics land.
Yes, sir. Yes, it is.
We can definitely compare notes and see how far off the mark you guys were.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm done. I am done with this. No, this show's over. I've had enough.
I think I had there was a glitch in the hearing in my microphone and my headset here. I thought Karen said something like she thinks it's a good movie and we were probably right, but maybe she'll learn from this as to being wrong for most of the majority of the films.
No,
I doubt it.
That's not what I said at all.
I thought that's what she said.
So it'll be interesting to see.
Mm-hmm.
How this all plays out. Stay tuned for next Friday. Oh my God.
1,000 pennies. Or as they said in Coming Back to America in the barbershop, aha.
Aha.
Aha. Okay. All righty. Yes, indeed.
Yes, indeed.
One question before we go. I think there's one critic that we haven't heard from tonight. And that's Quick Draw. Quick Draw, what do you think about the Oscars? Do you think the Oscars are going to be entertaining as a whole?
Oh, do the thinning around here.
Okay. With that said, thanks for joining us here on A Real Point of View. We really appreciate you listening in and having fun with us here on our show. Stay tuned. We do have more Oscar abilities here next week when the Oscars after the Oscars have actually aired on the 4th here, March 4th, which is Sunday. So on March 9th, we'll come back and talk to you a little bit more about, as Karen alluded to, were we right? Was the Academy right? Rarely ever we noticed.
Right.
But just to see how we fared. So if you have any questions, comments, leave them on our YouTube channel on A Real Point of View on YouTube, and let us know what you think. And we appreciate you viewing us here on A Real Point of View. And any parting words before we get out of here, you guys?
See
Okay.
at the movies?
Yeah, that's a good one. Like that one. Sounds original.
In case anybody doesn't know, Avengers Infinity War has been moved up to April from a May release date.
They're riding
And
those
so
Black Panther coattails.
They're riding a high, and they're wanting to go into this pretty much the end of the first part of the year with a bang. So go check it out. Go support Marvel movies. I mean, they're not all
see that one.
They're not all the best, but some of them are pretty darn close.
That one will be good. That one looks like it'll be good.
I think so too. And all the crazy things that are going to happen in that film that may surprise you, especially those of you who are just on the new bandwagon of the Marvel Universe. And then for those of us who have been there for quite so many decades, may even surprise us a little bit. So definitely looking forward to Marvel movies. And DC, praying for you.
Spoiler alert, Thanos is going to beat up everyone.
All right, there you go.
And there you go. And there you go.
All right, well, thanks again for joining
gets
us.
a slap.
That's right, at least one. That's okay. That's okay. We're going to come back from it.
Man.
And again, DC praying for you.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks again for joining us here on A Real Point of View. Everybody have a good night. And as Karen said, go check out a movie. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
See you, Steve. Bye, Steve boy. Bye, Karen girl. Peace.
I'm going to go get in bed and die.
Yes, it's time to get some rest.
Yes.
I know. Steve doesn't know we're still live. He's really tired.
No, Steve no longer cares.
Good night, everybody.
Like if